Almost all of us have paid for something in installments, and almost nobody notices that their brain stops doing math in that exact moment. 4 times $150, or $600 at once. Same sum, same purchase, same month. And still, one of them feels doable and the other one feels expensive. That is not a mistake in your arithmetic. That is a mistake in your feeling. And it probably happens to you more often than you would like. To understand what is going on, we have to climb into a brain scanner for a moment. In one laboratory, researchers put people into a tube and showed them things they could actually buy. First the product, then, a few seconds later, the price. And the moment the price appeared on the screen, a region lit up that nobody would have expected there, the insula, which happens to be the same area that fires when something is physically unpleasant, when you bite into something spoiled, when you feel sick. And it got better. The stronger that region reacted to the price, the more likely it was that the person would not buy the item at all. You could read off a brain image who was about to say no. The researchers gave it a name that captures exactly what you feel at the checkout. They called it the pain of paying. And this is where it gets interesting, because that pain is not a design flaw. It is a break. Imagine for a second that it did not exist. You would have to judge every single expense by pure calculation, compare, weigh up, think it through, every time. And nobody has time for that in daily life. So your brain built a shortcut. It does not calculate, it warns. That small, unpleasant sting, when you pay, is the fastest cost information you own. It does not tell you how much something costs. It tells you that it hurts. And usually, that is enough. Which is why cash feels the most expensive. You hand something over. It is gone. You can see the gap in your wallet. A card hurts less. A phone barely hurts at all. And somewhere, at the far end of that scale sits a way of paying. That switches the sting off almost completely. But what actually happens when somebody releases that brake on purpose? 2 researchers described how this works back in the late 90s. Their idea was simple and fairly uncomfortable. Your mind keeps a ledger, not in numbers, but in feelings. And in that inner ledger, paying and enjoying sit on the same page. When they happen together, it hurts the most. You pay and you receive at the same time. The price sticks to the product, but you can pull those 2 things apart, and then the pain disappears. That is exactly why an all-inclusive holiday feels so light. You pay once, months in advance, on some boring Tuesday evening, and then everything on the trip is free. It is obviously not free. It only feels that way, because the paying is far away and already ticked off. Now flip that around. What happens if you receive first and pay later? Then there is nothing to feel in the moment of enjoyment. No sting, no break, just a parcel at your door. But there is a second trick, and that one is even more elegant. A marketing researcher ran a series of experiments on what happens when you break an amount into pieces, not lower it, just break it up. He compared an annual fee with the same amount, presented as a few cents a day. The price stayed identical. Agreement went up sharply. The reason for that is wonderfully mundane. Your brain does not compare things to your bank balance. It compares them to whatever feels similar right now. $150 lands next to an evening out. You know that one? It is doable. You have done it many times. $600 lands next to purchase, next to holiday, next to bigger decision. It is the same number, but it sits in a completely different drawer, and the decision gets made out of that drawer. And because you have probably just recognized yourself in that, I want to know, team total price or team monthly rate? Which one does your eye go to first? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Now you could say this is all lovely theory. It is not. It has been measured. In an experiment run by the Irish Central Bank, a representative group was allowed to go shopping. Some paid by card, others in installments. The ones paying in installments spent, on average, a good 4% more. 4% sounds cute. But the second finding is the one that matters. People who had paid in installments earlier believed they had more money left than they actually did. And they then went for a pure want item, 22% more often. The ledger in their head had miscalculated, and it never even noticed. There is a third number too. The mere prospect of being able to pay in installments later raised their spending on the ordinary card. The option works before it is ever used. A second piece of research then left the laboratory. Scientists analyzed real customer data from a large retailer before and after installment payments were introduced. Baskets got around 10% bigger. But the most interesting part is whose baskets. Not the people already spending a lot. The effect was stronger among the people who used to buy small. And that brings us to the finding. That genuinely stopped me during the research. The researchers behind the Irish experiment tried one more thing. They showed some of the participants clear risk warnings. Well written, clearly visible, exactly what you would hope for. And it worked. Afterwards, those people demonstrably understood the risk better. They bought exactly the same anyway. Understanding went up. Behavior stayed where it was. And that is not an accusation against anyone. Quite the opposite. It just shows, rather brutally, on which level this decision gets made, which is not the level where you read and understand things. And now for the part that pulls all of this out of the laboratory. From late 2026, new consumer credit rules apply across the European Union. Installments and deferred payments legally count as credit, even for small amounts. There is a check beforehand, a right to withdraw, and, you guessed it, a duty to display a warning. I am not judging that. That is not my job, and you are old enough. I just find it remarkable that we are introducing a solution whose effect has already been measured. It makes you smarter. It does not make you more careful. So what can you do? And by that, I explicitly do not mean how you should pay. That is your decision, not mine. It is something much smaller. Your brain is not stupid. It is quite old. It was built for a world where paying meant giving something away, something you could see, hold, and miss afterwards. The sting used to be reliable, because giving things away reliably hurt. And installments are simply the first way of paying where you give nothing away. Nothing leaves. Nothing gets smaller. There is just a number in an app, and that number belongs to your future self. Here is the good part. The same mechanism that tricks you can be taken back. You do not need a rule for that, and you do not need to go without anything. You need one single question. What does this cost in total? That is all. Say the big number out loud in your head before you press the button. It takes 1 second, and in that second, your brain gets its break back. 4 times 150. Next time you are standing at a checkout, you will see both numbers from now on. The small one you are being offered, and the big one it actually is. And then you decide. But at least you decide with every number on the table. Do you know somebody who always looks at the monthly rate first? Then send this video their way. It explains a lot. Next time, we are looking at a feeling that makes you happy and sad at the same time, both at once. And the strangest part is that people go looking for that feeling on purpose. Thank you for staying until the end. That is not a given, and I do not take it for granted. I'm Poppy. If this helped you, drop a sub. See you in the next video.